This video is the second in a series of videos that are aimed at jamming with yourself, and the examples that I'm going to give are going to get you sounding maybe a little more like Hendrix, or my examples are going to be Hendrix-ish. But once again, as I keep explaining, I'm throwing out this idea as a starting point. The real goal here is for you to take it and improvise, make it your own, run away with the E minor pentatonic. If you have the skills, flesh it out into a chord progression, which is going to be my next video, is fleshing this out into a chord progression. If you don't want to miss any of my upcoming content, please hit like and subscribe. This video being aimed at people kind of in the beginner stage or maybe in the later stages of the beginner stage. I really want to encourage you to take it and run with it, but I understand that at this stage in your playing that this video is aimed at, you probably don't have the knowledge to draw from, the scales, the chord shapes, things like that. So that's why I'm giving you examples. If you don't have the knowledge, the experience, you can follow me note for note, and it's kind of a fun way to express yourself and have some fun while you're doing it. Maybe sound a little like Hendrix. Our goal is to have fun and learn. So we're going to look at some ideas to expand on the idea that I gave you in the first video. I did get a little bit of positive feedback from the first video. Shout out to Tab Out LA. Quick question, Tab Out. Is it tab out like guitar tabs or tab out like tab out? Anyways, we're going to look at two alternatives that are kind of on the same path as the examples that I showed you in the first video. And then the third one is kind of going to be a little bit more of a rhythmic example to kind of get you thinking in a different way about this example. So without further ado, tune up your guitar. Let's get a close-up and we'll get right to it. If you missed the first video, it's probably a good idea to go back and learn the part so that you're not lost here. If you're a little further along in your guitar journey, this is a pretty simple part. You could probably pick it up. But either way, you're not going to get a lot out of this video unless you're familiar with the example from the first video, which looks like this. Bad notes at no additional cost. And like I explained, my goal here is to teach you things while we're having fun. So, the thing that we're going to learn in our first example is another position of the E minor pentatonic. So this shape can be used when your root note is found on the 5th string, this minor pentatonic shape. And if you start at your root under your index finger, in this case on the 7th fret, this is where you'll find this shape. We're going to play 7-10 on the E, 7-9 on the A, 7-9 on the D, 7-9 on the G, 8-10 on the B, and 7-10 on the high E. Okay, so let's inject that into another example. Now, like I said, these examples are meant to be starting off points for improvising. If you're sitting there thinking that these parts are kind of simple for you, then this lesson might be a little bit below you. Not that you're better or worse than anybody, but you might want to move on to more advanced lesson. These are simple ideas aimed at people in the beginner to kind of beginner intermediate stage to give them ideas and to get some shapes under their fingers to be able to improvise. So, we're going to start this phrase the same way that we have been, with our open string strike, our chord, and our pull-offs. If you need more help with that, go back to my first video and I'll help you some more. Okay, now we have our open string strike and our chord strike again. Now we have a full step bend at the 10th fret of the B string, and we bring it back down to our original tone here at the 10th fret. And then we pull off to the 8th fret. Next, our root note on the 9th fret of the G string. And then we play our G note on the 8th fret of the B string with lots of vibrato. If you'll remember from the first video, we used that G note before in this figure because it's very Hendrix, and I'm trying to kind of aim at Hendrix for our inspiration for this. Okay. Example 2. We're going to take advantage of one of the reasons why the E minor pentatonic is the guitar player's favorite scale and favorite key, and that's open strings. We've been taking advantage of this a little bit already with our pull-offs at the 2nd fret, but now we're going to do some pull-offs that are a little more probably unconventional because they're a little further up the neck, so our interval spacing is pretty big, and it's a sound that you don't often hear. So we're going to start our phrase the same way. We're going to start our second half the same way with our open string strike and our chord. Now we're going to pull off of the 5th fret of the D string to open, and then the 5th fret of the A string to open. Now we're going to slide from the 5th to the 7th fret on the A string. Okay, our next example is going to start the same way. And this might look a little familiar to you. I'm going to borrow a little inspiration here. Okay, so let's take a look at this example, which is totally original. Of course, we start our same way. Now we're going to play a hammer-on. This is classic Hendrix. Hammer-on here at from a double stop at our 3rd fret. Now this is very, very important. We're going to hammer on the B string only on the 5th fret, making sure the E string continues to ring out. Very, very important, very Hendrix technique, and it does not work unless you let the E string continue to ring out. Okay, this is what we don't want is for the flesh of our ring finger to mute the high E string, and it ends up sounding like this. Now, while there's nothing wrong with that as a sound, we're aiming for Hendrix, so we want it to sound like this. Right? So, we're going to play our hammer on from the 3rd fret to the 5th fret of the B string, but holding the double stop at the 3rd fret on the E and the B, like I said. Now we're going to play our double stop at the 3rd fret again. Now quickly, we're going to play the 4th fret and slide down before the note really fully sounds. Okay? And when we get down there, we're going to pull off. Now we're going to play our open D, and we're going to let it sound just a little before we hammer on, not even like a full beat. I'll take this opportunity to explain something to you real quickly. You might see that I leave in some parts when I'm showing examples. I might play a bad note or two here or there, and you might be asking, why would he leave that in? He's making the video, he's going to have to edit it. Why wouldn't he just redo it cleanly? And that's because I see too many people in this age of learning from video. They're putting too much pressure on themselves to play perfectly. They want everything they play to sound good, so they never want to just explore the fretboard. They don't want anybody to hear them playing anything except a polished piece of music. And it's kind of a disservice that social media has done to musicians and people learning music. But enough of that rant. Where were we? Okay, I'm going to give you one more example here before I wrap this video up. Like I said, we're going to have more in this series coming up that's going to deal with turning this into kind of chord progressions, more ideas on different directions you can go, and of course my goal is to work education into that all along the way. So my last example is going to be a little bit more rhythmic based, because I'm going to be looking a little bit more at rhythms in my upcoming videos, and I'd really like you guys to be interested, so you like and subscribe. So, last phrase looks like this. Okay, I don't have a lot of effects on, but definitely if you're at home, you have a rotary effect, a phaser, something like that. When you get to play these types of phrases and you get them nice and tight against the 4/4 backbeat, what you're going to get is kind of a swirling, spinning effect to this kind of rhythmic phrase. Hopefully you can kind of pick out with your ear what I'm talking about. So, we're going to start the same way. When we get to our second half of our phrase, we're going to get right into the chords. We're going to play the chords in a triplet rhythm, but we're going to let the first chord of the triplet ring out and mute the second. So each triplet is going to look like this. Right? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay? Now, I will say, not only should you be doing all of this to a metronome, but this last phrase that I showed you in particular is going to be very, very tricky for somebody who is a beginner without a metronome to keep it on the beat and to get that kind of swirling effect that I was talking about. Once your ear picks it out, however, it will be kind of a second nature thing to get that kind of effect going. So I hope you guys enjoyed my second look at this kind of Hendrix style phrase. I'm hoping you guys are having fun because I don't want to see anybody quit guitar ever again. If you would like to see if my content was useful to you at all, if you found it valuable, please hit like and subscribe because guitar is my passion, but so is sharing these videos with you. If you like and subscribe, I can continue to do that. Thanks everybody and keep on rocking.